Matthew Heines. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. I took the oath, and I'm here to defend my state.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Encounters USA. With me I have a special guest that I'm going to bring out in just a second, but before I do, there's a couple things that I want to talk about Encounters USA and about what's happening right now. Now, if you've been following the podcast, you know that I haven't been doing that many shows lately because of my involvement as a political candidate in Washington State. I am running for the 1st Congressional District, which is basically Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish, and King County, and on the map it is really Bigfoot country. So today I have a special guest here who is a Bigfoot experiencer and a former law enforcement official, and we're going to be talking about the politics of Bigfoot. And we're going to, I know that might sound crazy, but we're going to be talking about how Bigfoot actually fits into politics. We're going to talk about, as our guest here has also run a political campaign, we're going to be talking about how Bigfoot fits into politics in recent times. And we're also going to be talking about, like, for example, I haven't had a haircut for 3 months. I can't go to the gym. I'm in the worst shape of my life. I look terrible. Even my guest said I look tired. And he's probably right, because I'm just basically a rotting organism, and this is all due to the government of Washington State and their decision making. So we're going to be talking about all of that today. So I'm going to bring out our guest now, and before I introduce him formally, I just want to remind people that a year ago, I started Encounters USA. It was a little over a year ago, and I interviewed Rich Germeau, who is my guest today. And in that interview, I learned more about the Bigfoot controversy, about the people involved in Bigfoot, and he gave me an initial course in what we're going to be talking about today as far as Bigfoot politics. So today I want to welcome our special guest, Mr. Rich Germeau. Welcome to Encounters USA, Rich.
Thanks.
Now, another thing I have to say to the viewers is that, you notice we have this beautiful, lovely backdrop. And I've had so many complaints about my interview with Rich before, or my interviews. I only have a microphone that fits on the front of my phone. So it's not possible. I know in the interviews people are freaking out going, why do you look at each other? Or why don't you look at each other? Why do you keep looking at the camera? And the fact of the matter is, at the time I did the interviews, I wasn't sure if this was even going to record, and so I was just keeping focused on my microphone and camera. But unfortunately, we're still in the same setup, so if you're freaked out by it, then turn off the video or something, but this is just how it's going to work. So Rich, let me just explain a little bit about Rich's background. If you haven't seen the videos yet, I suggest you go back to my first videos because they're fascinating, and I've also gone back and revisited some of the places the Rich has had encounters. But the first one was in La Push, Washington, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and at the time you had that encounter, your capacity was?
I was a La Push tribal police officer.
Okay, so you're a tribal police officer, and that was your first encounter, and that was back in?
July of 2000.
Okay, and if you want, I
believe it was before the 4th, 1st of the 4th, somewhere happened. It was 1st or 2nd, I think.
Yeah, he's probably down there getting his sparklers, so.
No, I was working.
Okay, well no, I meant Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could have been it.
So then our guest had a number of encounters on Harstein Island, which was actually where I first started doing my videos. And so this is where we met Rich last time, was in Harstein Island, and then we went to Lake Cushman. So right now we are actually sitting in a different location, and I'm not sure if I'm going to reveal it or not, but I have to ask you, has there ever been any Bigfoot activity in this area? Because I know down the road there has been, in fact, recently.
Well, where down the road?
Should I say the name of the town, or will you have to kill me?
Well, I don't know.
Chimicum. There's been a few sightings recently in Chimicum and Quilcene.
Really, I didn't even. Well, maybe I hadn't really heard of that, but I'm not really that connected directly. But yeah, there has been stuff up in this right in this area here, but there hasn't been a Class A sighting, which would be a physical, like seeing it, since the last one would have been the 80s. There was one by a deputy sheriff who used to live down the street. He was pulling in at 6 a.m. in the morning, and one ran out of his driveway and put its hands on the front of his patrol car where it came out of his driveway. He was coming home from work from a graveyard. And then back behind us here, there is a water pipeline that runs from Quilcene to Port Townsend. So I'll give you some idea of where we're at. And on that pipeline, I know of two people personally that had Class A sightings there too. But that was in the 70s, around the same couple of years, 73 or 74. And they're both kind of interesting. One was a hunter who saw it come out of the tree line and walk down a road with binoculars from like 200 yards away, watched it for quite some time, and then it went back in the timber. Described it well. And one was my cousins, and they were up there having a picnic when they were like in their early 20s, and they were laying down kind of relaxing, and then all of a sudden they heard a big crack behind them, and on the edge of this opening there were fir trees that had limbs that went way down, and they turned and looked and watched a big limb being broken out of it, and what they could see underneath, they saw these, from like the knees down, they could see these hairy calves and huge feet walking around underneath there. And it was really close to them, and they got the hell out of there. And then there's people that own a winery down the road here about, maybe 3/4 of a mile away. In the 80s, they bought the property, which had an old orchard in it, and they had an encounter there. Not a sighting, but a pretty good encounter, and found footprints. And I found impressions here, and I've heard wood knocks, and I've heard Ohio howls within 100 yards of my house. But that's been at least, I haven't had any activity for at least 2 years of any kind. But I haven't seen anything other than that. Found some impressions right behind my house one day. I've heard really good Ohio howls, like I said. And if you know what Ohio howls are, you can look them up. And it was an exact match to that. There were like 8 or 9 consecutive. We also heard rock clacking here. And my brother has a cabin between the main houses, and he's had his cabin slapped a few times, and his girlfriend had it happen to him in the middle of the night a couple times too. So there has been some stuff going on every now and again.
Well, this is ideal country. You've got the Olympics are right there. So yeah, and then all of your activity, I guess you cleared that up, is about 30 miles south of here?
Yeah, where they
Harstein,
the Hamma.
Yeah.
It was down Hamma, Harstein, all of Mason County, Dewatto. Yeah. That's all probably. It's not even really. It's not that far really. You know, everything's so close together really.
Yeah.
Here, it's not that far apart.
Okay, so let's get into our some of the questions that I have for you now. Not only were you were a deputy sheriff down in Mason County, correct?
I was.
And you also ran your own political campaign.
I did.
So we are going to talk a little bit about, this is where we're going to jump into the politics of Bigfoot. So the first thing I have to ask you is when you're running for sheriff, correct?
I did.
And during your run, did people know about your encounters?
No, I would say probably no, because it was so early then, and it was just starting, and probably my being me publicly known related to it, and the correlation between the two, there would have been very few people that would have been able to connect at that time. Okay. And I didn't talk about it.
Yeah. So that's what I want to ask you. So why didn't you talk about it?
Well, at that time, I was doing it as a side thing to basically, honestly, the reason why I got into Bigfoot at that time is I was being persuaded by somebody, for one. And I was looking for a release because I was doing something so high stress. I was being two things at once. I was being a whistleblower, right, where I was in direct combat against my employer and against people that I had alleged criminal conduct against, and 2 other cops where we had worked on a 3-year investigation, had all these documents, and we basically went through this process of reporting it to everybody we needed to legally and doing it the legal and proper ways. Throughout the process, I had hired 2 attorneys that I had on retainer, one employment lawyer, and then I had a who had been a prosecutor with the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office prior to working for a private law firm out of Seattle. And then the other was a public records, attorney who had his own firm out of Olympia. He's well known. He ended up writing 10 books about called 299 Days, and under a different name, so I won't say his name, but I'm a character in those books too. Okay. But he basically used his experience in government because he worked for Rob McKenna, and that's a whole nother story that we could get into. But basically, I was a whistleblower. All this corruption was exposed to me that I couldn't believe it. My whole belief system was destroyed essentially, and I had to rebuild it. We were denied justice by the system all the way to the very top, to the FBI and everybody. They all colluded, basically. We found out the whole thing was corrupt. Couldn't believe it. It was just mind-blowing. Okay. Nobody would believe us. So then, because we got no justice, I ran for sheriff because it was the only way that I could get the information out without having to fear for retaliation, because they had everything in their favor. They stacked the deck because they did their own investigations and shit. So, I couldn't tell the truth because I would be sued for defamation. So under the protection of a political campaign, I had all the protection. And I took no donations, and I did it all myself. I got no help from nobody because my whole intent was to just tell the truth under the protection of a political campaign. And if I would have won, who knows what would have happened? I probably would have been dead in at least 4 years because I would have been so radical. Because I had some pretty crazy ideas about returning power back to the people and stuff like that, and having more, using it, Sheriff Moore would be as a national platform to try to affect, the American mind in a way to get them awakened to what was going on in my experience.
Okay. Well, Rich, we're going to come back and talk about that, but I really want to focus on, because this is Encounters USA, I want to focus on this Bigfoot aspect. And so you wouldn't really talk about, your connection, your encounters with Bigfoot during your campaign, and the reason being...
It wasn't related to it. It was like...
You're not afraid of...
Oh, no.
Of Officer Bigfoot?
Well, nothing. I don't think if I would have... Look, if I'm willing to take on the whole state myself and my whole department by myself, go toe-to-toe with them, I don't think I'm going to be worried what people think about Bigfoot too much.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that's a very good answer. So this is kind of a segue into it's actually a cheap, sleazy political segue, but I'm going to do it. I'm running in the 1st Congressional District for Washington State, so I'm running in basically Bigfoot country.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no place that I don't think in the United States that has more recorded Bigfoot sightings or activity than the counties in which I'm running. So, whereas a long time ago, like maybe 30 or 40 years ago, to even mention that you even thought there was a Bigfoot or aliens or dogman, that was political suicide. So, what do you think it's changed, and why do you think it would have changed?
I absolutely think it's changed now. I guarantee you there's going to be some segment of society that probably is going to laugh at you and look down on you for that, and they probably would not vote for you just because of that. And that's going to be due to their own insecurities and fear. Yeah. Not because that you'd be a good candidate or that you might have a good message or that you might be the greatest person. It's because they're scared of that. They're scared of the truth. You got a huge portion of society, and it's both Democrats and Republicans that are in that group, And so, but you're also going to have a very large part of the society that is more silent, and it doesn't have a lot of representation right now, I would say. But I think representation is going to grow dramatically in the years to come. That is going to be open-minded to the possibilities of these things. And the fact that you have the courage to go out and express yourself in that way, and to claim that you have a parallel belief system possibly than what the narrative has said. They're going to respect that as a whole. And I see a movement where that people are going to grasp onto that, and that's going to grow significantly in our society, where you're going to see society break away from more classical science and just indoctrination that we've been through with this false history and everything, and you're going to see people move into this open-mindedness, because now we have the ability to interface with this cloud of unfiltered information, right? That is not modified, and it's not, you have to filter it yourself and to make your own decisions based on what you can see, but you get to decide based on whatever information that you want to see. You can interface into this information that is uncontrolled, right? Nobody is controlling, and that just changed recently, right? It was heavily censored by the main, like Google and stuff, and that's all been changed in the last couple of months now. Now there's no censorships anymore. It's all being stopped by the federal government.
Okay, so, well, I could sit here and argue with you on that, but I'm not going to, at least right now. What I would like to kind of narrow down is, so you think that it's changed, whereas in the old days, it would have been suicide to talk about it politically, but do you think that it has to do with what we're seeing now? I mean, it has to do with a complete mistrust of the government, right? I mean, it's not about Bigfoot or aliens. It's about the government never tells the truth, and this is just one example. And so if you're on the side of telling the truth, then it's my belief that, and I could be wrong, but especially in where I'm running, that if you tell the truth, that's a lot more valuable to people than telling the myth, than repeating the myth. So I like you say, I'm betting on the fact that people are tired of the lies, and
I think it's already changed, really. I think we've already turned it. I think everything's already shifted in that way. We're on a path now. It's done. The old way is done. These old people that we had that were in control, it's done. We're moving into a new, it's a bunch of confusion now and all this chaos that's happening because we're in a transition right in this moment.
Right.
We're coming into a new thing. You know, it's here.
Okay, so we have so much to talk about, but let's start with right now in Seattle. Okay, so we're not post coronavirus, but the coronavirus hit 3 months ago. I can't get a haircut. I can't go to the gym. I'm just miserable.
I do have a haircut.
I don't even want to ask. See, I have to tell you this story, I guess, since you brought it up. When I ran last time, I said, oh, I should go down and get a haircut. Went down to like one of these something cuts places, and I said, just give me a haircut, little trim. So we're sitting there talking, and I'm not paying attention to my hair cutting. And when I got done, I looked like she'd run a broken lawnmower over my head. So I had to keep telling people I'm running as a Republican. I didn't want to look like one. So anyway, that was my joke, but it's not funny. And I'm not running as a Republican, so I'll probably have to edit this out.
Oh, congratulations. I want to say that too, that you are running for office, and it's great that you're doing that even.
Thank you.
So many people don't.
Thank you. Actually, if you want to know the truth, and I'll say this very quickly, I was going to run for governor, and at the end of it, why did I not run for governor? I didn't run because I just couldn't do the statewide campaign. I did it before, it's too much. So I said, well, I'm going to run for the 1st district, which I live in, and I was so glad I didn't run for governor. There's 34 people, I think 34 with Inslee, trying to unseat his sorry butt. So isn't that funny? So
he's done anyways.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm in a contest
Hopefully.
with the incumbent, who's a $84 million millionaire from Microsoft, and a couple of guys I've never heard of. So I think I've got a pretty good chance of doing this. Yeah. And if I win, you will have a representative in Congress who wants to get to the truth of Bigfoot, aliens, and Dogman. So
maybe you can hire me to be on your staff.
That is, I absolutely will. Don't forget, to the victors go the spoils.
Yeah.
So maybe I might need some law enforcement, some extra security.
Armed security.
Yep. So yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that once I'm in Congress. All right. So do you think? Okay. So you're talking about like the dawning of the age of Aquarius, as they used to say in that 70s song. There's a major enlightenment. So suddenly they're talking about the UFOs. do you think this is going to kind of trickle down and they're going to start releasing these secrets, or do you think there's going to be even more secrets?
I think this is what is happening. This is what my outlook, based on my interpretation of what I see and feel and what's going on, and what's been building up to, and basically what I think is this. I think that you look back through Trump's administration and what it represents and the things that he has done. Right, he has been on a path, that maybe isn't out front to the public necessarily. I don't know if they necessarily understand all the decisions and the things that he does, a lot of the executive orders, a lot of things he's established. Well, he established a Space Force. And I think the purpose of officially establishing Space Force and reestablishing traveling beyond, the Earth and the space station is basically to move us into this period of time where people are softened up, which I think is going to come pretty soon, to a lot of information being revealed, right? And a lot of information potentially about the past and things that were going on that we were not being told about. And really, maybe a lot of technology is going to come out through this. It's been suppressed, a lot of patents released. And I think that that's what this is all about. And I think it may even result in ET contact and being able to facilitate that to the public maybe later in his second term. And I think that was what the establishment of Space Force was. And I think that's why you're seeing the intelligence services having to release more classified information. And they're basically confirming to you now that they acknowledge it. They have evidence of it. They've recorded it. And they're showing the public now. They're saying, okay, here you go. This is what we're showing you this far. This is baby steps. We're going to move you through this process. And I think there's a plan in place, right? And I think Space Force, I think what they have shown in the disclosure so far is all part of that plan to lead to some end event that's going to happen. I don't think it's for nothing. I think that it's moving to some place. And I think Bigfoot is probably going to be lumped in that too.
Okay. Then I have to throw this in with you. So you think that they're going to come out with
if Trump wins again, I think in the second term. I think he's got full plans to do it second term.
Okay, so now I've interviewed guys like Steve Liam Bruno, who his dad was in the secret space program, and he's got these, these little spaceships that they've had for a long time that run off of a Mercury kind of an engine, and are supposedly, we've been using them to travel intergalactically for some time.
Yeah, I agree with that probably.
Are we going to go full?
I think so. Okay. I think we're going all the way to probably zero-point energy and anti-gravity vehicle technology. I think we're going all the way to that. I think that's how they're going to save the economy, is they're going to transition to a new system, and then they're going to release all this technology. I think we're going to move into a completely different medical system that's based on quantum medicine and harmonic frequency, and they're not going to treat symptoms anymore. They're just going to cure illness and disease through harmonic. They're going to train your own body to do it through these other methods. They already have patents on it. It's already proven and shit. They just hide it because it gives power to people, and they don't want that. They need a few to be able to control many, and if you give the people free energy and you give them cures, that's a problem.
Okay, so when I started onto this line of questioning, I was trying to get into what's happening in Seattle right now, but since you brought that up, I want to bring this up to somebody.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Because this is something that as a society, we got to figure out. Back when the Apollo things were going on, they were rioting in Watts, right? They were burning down Watts in Los Angeles, I guess. And it doesn't change. None of those problems got solved. It's the same group of people with the same issues, having the same problems, while everybody else is off in space. And everybody else is off doing their own thing. But it seems like there is just one, every time we have these advancements in science or whatever, we always get drugged back to Earth by the same problems. Are we going to solve these problems now, do you think?
Yes.
You sound very optimistic. And,
no, I'm not even
optimistic
about
I'm very
it,
pessimistic.
I don't think, I'm just sure about it. The thing is it's coming now. The people are not going to tolerate moving forward. There's too much information. We know too much. We know about Epstein. We know about how the cabal was controlling everything. We know about it all now. These people are all going down. It's all changing. These people are going to be done. We are moving to a new era where we're going to be free of all this evil crap. This evil Hollywood shit and this evil government shit. It's all over. There's too many people now that I've talked to and that know what's going on, and it's just spreading.
Okay. Well, and I'm just going to be the gadfly here and say, you know, Rich, I see people driving around by themselves with a mask on.
Well,
with a mask on,
yeah.
okay? So if
why do you think we're wearing masks?
Well, I know why we're wearing masks. It's
ownership.
It's symbolic to keep your frickin' mouth shut.
Ownership.
And you don't have a voice, but and then it's funny too to see all these people wearing diapers on their faces.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course we found out, and I have to say this, that I'm saying this and making fun because of the real medical doctors and researchers who have come out and said it is not contagious like they say it is. If you get it, you're probably going to recover, and they fudge the death statistics that if you die of anything, like a gunshot wound, then you died of the coronavirus.
Well, last thing I saw, there were over 14 countries, including Australia, that were asking for an international investigation into whether or not coronavirus was a bioweapon and released by the Chinese. We've pretty much gotten confirmation by our own, presidential cabinet that is the case, and they know it, and that time is just going to end up showing us more related to that. And the fact that this is likely, I mean, you look at the chain of events that have occurred. We had the Russia hoax. We had impeachment hoax. Then we had coronavirus hoax. Then we have riots, right? And then expect something to happen very quickly, or this riot thing to escalate and change, because it's wearing off now too. And so you can see what the strategy is to keep chaos going until November, to try to get mail-in voting so you can manipulate the vote and cause enough corruption to win. That's your only chance to save your own ass. So that's what's happening. Everybody knows that's what's happening, but they're doing it anyways. And our own government here in this state is complicit in this strategy, right? What I would say would be a criminal conspiracy at this point, where these people are knowingly engaged, right, in destroying private business, taking power away from the people, consolidating power more into their hands, right? Engaged is this. It is clear what is occurring, right?
Well, you can't,
hopefully someone's going to stop it.
Yeah, but now we can't say that, we know what Jay Inslee's doing exactly, and we know why he's doing it, but we
can't say that.
But we do know the effect.
Well, here's the thing.
We do know what the effects of what they're doing are, and there must be a reason for them doing it. And for that reason, I agree with you.
No, I agree with that. I guess you can't say that you know for sure that all these elements have been met to meet this, criminal allegation. But at the same time, you can also look at, what is the, what is the word? But it's a certain type of evidence. Circumstances. You can look at the circumstances, and you can look what's happened and what's gone on, and you can also look at what the science says. But then again, their decisions don't match science. It seems to go along with politics. You can look at the situation in CHOP, and the situation where what you have is government officials handed over parts of a U.S. city, parts of public and private land over to a militant group. They may be peaceful during the daytime, but there's other stuff going on at nighttime. So what they did is they gave territory. Now you have it barricaded, where access is controlled to some degree or another. People have weapons inside. They consider this to be their territory, and then the city negotiated with them just the other day to take part of it back so they could have easier access for EMS and police. And what did they do? They gave them concrete barricades, right? So now they have fortified positions to fire behind that are made to look different with plywood in front. So you can say that, okay, looking at this from a tactical point of view, as a military person and ex-law enforcement, and I was a SWAT team member, and I was trained heavily in tactics with both. What's going to happen when a militant group or a group that has militant aspects to it, maybe not the whole group, but parts of it are, of the people that are there, has time to move into a situation, have privacy, can import weapons, can fortify positions, right? They can hide their activity in buildings during the daytime, come out at night. But I guarantee you, as soon as there's a time when they're going to try to force these people out of there, the unfortunate thing that's going to happen is you have a lot of innocent people young people that are there that are political activists and whatnot, are engaged in political speech and trying to get political change. But really the whole motive behind this place is not that, right? And so what you have is a situation where you're going to have to use force to move this position out. These people have territory, right? They're not going to give it up. They have weapons. They have the right to have those weapons legally, right? Even though they think it's a separate country, but whatever. Maybe it's really not. So what I'm saying is there's going to be a confrontation at some point.
Okay.
And likely it's going to involve violence with weapons.
So, okay, so you sound like you've pretty much thought this out. So why is it that they will arrest a mother for taking her kid to a park and not having a mask on or whatever, or not observing social distancing,
Well,
but they won't arrest a bunch of hooligans? And before I say that, I just want to say that I think that what you see in Seattle is a result of a number of things that have nothing to do with what happened in Minneapolis.
No.
People have been locked up.
No.
Kids are not going to school. Kids have energy. They've been locked up. There's nothing for them to do. They have
Sure.
nothing to focus on. They have no hope. They have no job. And they're sitting there because somebody's telling them, well, it's okay to
Yeah.
it's okay to complain about this. But you can't complain about the fact that you're probably going to die
Okay.
poor, or you're probably going to starve to death because you don't have a job, and you never will, because they picked you as non-essential.
exactly. Well, here's something.
But nobody's saying anything.
No.
Why? Why isn't
Well,
anybody?
Well, here's something that you pointed out to me just a little bit ago, right? Like I got to the point where I was connecting some dots where I was saying that government, like governor, mayor, maybe these people are engaged in a criminal conspiracy. And you said, well, we don't necessarily have the information to support that, but you just gave a perfect example. Okay, so we have a situation with coronavirus where everything is locked down. We're going to destroy the economy. We're going to crush private small business forever in this state and in this country. We're going to fucking destroy people because they might get sick and die and pass this virus. But then again, at the same time, while we're crushing the country economically, and basically bringing the middle class completely to its knees and putting them in a position that they are going to be on the government handout forever if this control stays the same, we're going to allow people to rise up, practice no social distancing. In fact, we're going to say this is all safe, allow them to, and facilitate them to take territory, and we're even going to cater them food and give them sanitation, right? And so you're going to tell me that those actions are not, that they do not show criminal conduct, right? I don't know what the fuck is then. Excuse my language. I was a cop and I was a detective. I think that you can put those together on paper and you can pretty much show that without having to prove much else that there is some sort of a criminal conspiracy happening here and these people are engaged.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how else you put it.
Yeah.
I hope to God that there's somebody at the federal level that is diligently investigating and they have indictments drafted right now. Because I don't know what else you do with this. This is what you call treason and you call it sedition. This is bad stuff that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Bad stuff.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing where the war has been declared against free America and free people, right? By our own people we elected into these positions, right? They have turned rogue against us.
Yep.
That's where we are right now, right? We are in the fight for our lives, for our right to own private property, for our right to maintain firearms and to carry guns. We are in a fight for everything right now. And these people are actively against us. They know this is serious. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're allowing. They have a tinderbox going right now, right, ready? And they can set fire to that thing anytime they want to get the effect they want out of it. That's what's going on here.
So, as a former law enforcement, should we just walk in and start arresting them?
I think no. We got to back off and wait. You don't ever interrupt their enemy from when it's in the process of destroying itself. Right? And that's what's happening here. These people are destroying themselves. Let them do it. Right?
Well,
Trump will come in and fix this problem when the people are begging him to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to throw this at you since you bring this up, and it's kind of an intellectual exercise, but when you get these special interest groups, let's say Black Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
But when they've gone in and they were supposedly took over Seattle, but they're not in charge now. Somebody else is, right? So is the ultimate, I mean...
Who is in charge? There's a
Think of
rapper named Chaz or something I heard, or some name like that, who's handing out guns. That's what I've heard.
Well, it could be because when I was down there, one group says we're in charge, another group says, well, we're in charge and we want the barricades out. The other one, I think, was going for the barricades. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you is that a couple of things. And first of all, you think that we're coming into some kind of a dawning, but how does this all fit into our grand conscious?
It's the upheaval. I think what's happening is that coronavirus and all this is my take on this whole situation going on here. We gave the big picture when you left it Russia hoax all the way to election, right? Mm-hmm. Coronavirus in particular, what is it? This is the part in the process where everything has, I think there's two parallel things happening right now, right? There's two agendas that are occurring side by side. There's a war between those factions, and America is at war too right now, but the sides may not be as defined to them what's happening, depending on what information that they have, right? So what's happened, there's a lot of confusion that's occurring right now, because you have a struggle for power that's happening, right? Coronavirus. The Democrats are using it as a tool in their box. This is known, they had this plan for a long time. I think, this is what my take on it. The deep state really, call it Democrats, whatever you want to say. There's Republicans that are associated with this, this movement too. So, this cabal. Coronavirus was launched as a last ditch because they don't have much left other than riots and releasing pandemics. You know, they don't have control. They can't blow up the world anymore. That's gone. That's been dismantled for them, right? Their way to make money is mostly dismantled, and I think that's where you saw this money all disappear from the state unemployment that was federal dollars. Mm-hmm. I think that's where it was probably going, and that's why they were able to get it back without the help of the State Department, because if Nigeria had it, you think they're going to get money back from Nigeria without the help of the State Department? Mm-hmm. It never left accounts. It was here. Mm-hmm. They were just able to recover that money quickly because I'm sure every bit of that money was traced and tracked by the feds. Anyways, so I'm saying this is that coronavirus is what they've got there to throw out this time. The white hats, or the good side of this thing, also knows this, right? And they're using this cover as a time to effectively make some serious changes and usher in some stuff and to probably arrest some people. I think some people have probably been arrested. I think more are coming. I think here, I was a big proponent for a long preaching to everybody, crying wolf, the stock market was going to go down, the system had to go, right? Well, it has to mathematically, but the thing is now I'm realizing that Trump has control of that, and they have to keep that propped up because that's the thing that's only holding everything together. It's artificial completely, yep, but they have to give semblance that they have that control of the economics, and so you're seeing them being in full control. There's a transition coming out of this thing where they're going to minimize the damage to the people, but I think you're going to see government and the corporations suffer. But the people are going to not suffer. They're going to be what's held through with this thing. Everybody else is fucked. You know, but that's just my impression, and sorry for the language. But
I'll have to edit that.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, as you talk, I keep getting more and more questions, and then when you finish talking, I've forgotten them.
Probably.
So let's go back to this Black Lives Matter movement. What I was saying was that, so they have this movement where Black Lives Matter, but if they discredit that movement, which is what they've done in Seattle, because Black Lives Matter supposedly took that over. And where are they now? When I was down there, they were getting pushed out by these militants you're talking about. So is this one of these, you know, behind the scenes groups, Black Lives Matter, they get called like, oh, it's a hoax, it's a, you know, they're a bunch of criminals, whatever. So then the truth comes out, Black lives don't matter. Look at that. Look at what happened. Look who those people are. They weren't anybody. So the converse truth becomes true. And then when you have and I don't mean to offend anybody, and what happened to George Floyd was a horrible murder. You know, that shouldn't have happened to anybody. But when they replicate that murder by putting their freaking knee down on the ground like they did on his throat,
well,
what are they doing? What are they symbolizing here? They're symbolizing murdering a black man, and they're having all these white people symbolizing murdering a black man by putting their knee on their throat.
Would you like
that is something.
Would you like a law enforcement tactical perspective on that video?
I sure would.
My name is Matthew Matthew Heines. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. I took the oath, and I'm here to defend my state.
Congressman Susan DelBene has been in office since 2012. Using her substantial financial resources, thanks to Microsoft, and her $84 million fortune, she has been able to continually maintain an office where people still have little idea what she's done. Well, she's learned to dance around, and she's learned to do all the political maneuvers you have to do to keep getting reelected. Well, Susan DelBene, it's time for you to go.
My name is Matthew Heines. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. I took the oath, and I'm here to defend my state.